He was a household name, before reality television, before the stratospheric success of Duck Commander, before millions tuned in to watch bearded kinfolk gather for prayer and family meals. Phil Robertson was a man most close to losing everything. The world would come to know him as the grizzled duck-hunting sage, preaching faith and family values from a sun-dappled swamp. But behind the beard, before the cameras rolled, was a man wrestling with demons, standing at the precipice, a football star who shocked everyone by turning down the bright lights and glory, a husband and father who stumbled headlong into violence and addiction, nearly shattering the family that counted on him. This is not just the tale of a reality TV star. This is the story of a prodigal son, a man lost in darkness, who found redemption and purpose in the unlikeliest of places, the wild heart of the Louisiana swamp. Phil Alexander Robertson's story begins deep in the backwoods, in the tiny town of Vivian, Louisiana in 1946. He was born into poverty, a world with no electricity, no running water, and little money to spare. The Robertsons lived close to the land, their lives intertwined with the rhythms of the seasons. They fished the bayous, trapped game, laboring in the fields and forests simply to survive. Like so many children of the Depression-era Deep South, Phil learned resilience early. If we didn't grow it, catch it, or shoot it, we didn't eat. Such hardship forged him into a stubborn, self-sufficient young man, one who saw in nature both a challenge and a calling. Out of the woods and into the spotlight, Phil's natural athleticism set him apart. At Louisiana Tech University, he was handed the quarterback reins, playing ahead of an eager backup named Terry Bradshaw. Yes, that Terry Bradshaw, the future NFL Hall of Famer. Coaches saw a champion in Phil. He could throw, he could run, he could read defenses. The NFL was calling. But the swamp never let go of its son. Phil's priorities were different. When tryout schedules clashed with duck hunting season, the choice was easy. The gridiron would not stand between him and the marsh. He startled coaches and walk-ons alike. Football? Too many games during duck season. Phil Robertson walked away from the NFL and the promise of fame, looking for something wilder, deeper, and more dangerous than any stadium could offer. But life after college was no relentless adventure. Phil tried to carve out a normal existence. He taught school, ran a small bar, hunted with his kin, and tried to provide. But beneath the surface, cracks were spreading. The bottle seduced him. The bar fights became frequent. He drifted into infidelity, rage, and recklessness. His wife, Kay, known to the world as Miss Kay, watched the man she married fade into someone she barely recognized. The wild freedom of the swamp had mutated into something more sinister, more isolating. Eventually, the spiral claimed more than just Phil's peace. In a final, desperate unraveling, he kicked out his young family, cutting himself off completely. He retreated into the shadows, hiding in the woods and at the bottom of a bottle, a man not just lost, but running from grace. Rock bottom came not with a dramatic flourish, but in a dilapidated shack, miles from the world that once cheered for him. That's where a quiet knock at the door changed everything. It wasn't a rescue as much as a reckoning. A local preacher, unlikely and unafraid, came not with gentle platitudes, but tough love. Phil's armor cracked. On his knees, he repented, tears flowing, the weight of years of pain and failure pouring out. His newfound faith wasn't just a momentary thing, it was a total transformation. He asked forgiveness from Kay, reunited in purpose and grace. The Bible became his compass, and his family, once broken, began to heal. Phil Robertson emerged from the swamp, not just a better man, but a man on a mission, to live rooted in faith, family, and hard work. With his priorities changed, Phil returned to what he knew best, the lure of the hunt. But now the quest was different. In 1972, harnessing a hunter's keen ear and a tinkerer's ingenuity, Phil invented the Duck Commander duck call, a handmade call designed to sound exactly like the mallard drakes he'd hunted since childhood. Unlike competitors, his creation was nearly indistinguishable from the real thing. Hunters noticed. Orders came in from sporting goods stores and, soon enough, from every corner of duck country. With the help of his ever-growing family, especially his business-savvy son Willie, Duck Commander transformed from a scrappy regional business to a multi-million-dollar empire. Assembly lines in the backwoods, humid kitchens filled with the sound of sanding blocks and family jokes, laid the foundation for the next era, the era of national fame. Hollywood doesn't often call the swamp, but in 2012 it did. Television producers saw something oddly magnetic in the Robertson family, a bearded, camo-clad crew from West Monroe, Louisiana. What they found wasn't scripted drama or celebrity gloss, but raw authenticity. A family bound by business, faith, and bayou grit. When Duck Dynasty premiered on A&E, it struck an unexpected chord. Viewers came for the laughs, duck hunting antics, wisecracks, and Uncle Si's bizarre one-liners, but stayed for something deeper. Each episode ended not in chaos, but calm. The family gathered around a dinner table, heads bowed in prayer. It wasn't staged. It was who they were. In a world that felt increasingly rushed and fractured, the Robertsons offered a slower rhythm, a message that faith, family, and tradition still mattered. The swamp, with its cypress trees and shotgun blasts, became a symbol. The show wasn't just entertainment. It was a reminder of home, of values that many feared were fading. Against all odds, Duck Dynasty became a cultural phenomenon, and it all began with a call from Hollywood that no one saw coming. But with fame came consequences, consequences that not even the Robertsons, tucked away in the Louisiana woods, could escape. In 2013, at the height of Duck Dynasty's meteoric rise, Phil Robertson granted an interview to GQ magazine. What was meant to be a profile of a reality TV icon quickly became something else entirely. Phil, always unapologetically blunt and rooted in old-school convictions, spoke openly about sin, faith, and sexuality. His words, drawn directly from his understanding of Scripture, ignited a cultural firestorm. To some, it was the voice of an elder statesman speaking hard truths. To others, it was inflammatory, intolerant, and unacceptable in a modern society. Within days, the backlash was swift and severe. A&E, the very network that had made the Robertsons household names, announced Phil's suspension from the show. Sponsors began distancing themselves. Critics called for cancellation. Protesters demanded accountability. But something unexpected happened. As the media frenzy escalated, a massive wave of support surged from an unlikely army, millions of loyal viewers who saw in Phil not a villain, but a man standing firm in his faith. Social media erupted in his defense. Petitions circulated. Hashtags trended. For every critic, there were legions of supporters, many of whom saw the controversy as a larger battle between traditional values and modern culture. Within weeks, the network relented. Phil was reinstated, and far from harming the show, the controversy catapulted Duck Dynasty to even greater heights. Ratings soared. Merchandise flew off shelves. The Robertsons, once just duck hunters from West Monroe, were now national symbols. To some, they were champions of Christian conservatism. To others, they were relics of a bygone era. But one thing was certain. They were no longer just reality TV stars. They had become a cultural lightning rod, figures through which America's great ideological divide was now playing out in real time. In that moment, the Robertsons stopped being just a family in the woods. They became a symbol. And Phil, for better or worse, had sparked one of the most polarizing moments in the history of reality television. The whirlwind years of Duck Dynasty eventually faded. Phil stepped away from the relentless spotlight, focusing on what mattered most. He devoted himself to ministry, spreading his message through podcasts, writing books, and speaking engagements. Admiration and criticism both followed in his wake. a testament to the power and divisiveness of an unfiltered voice. In early 2024, the public learned that Phil had been diagnosed with early-stage Alzheimer's disease. Even as his memory dimmed, the essence of who he was, faithful, raw, and unsparing, remained. On May 25, 2025, Phil Robertson passed away at the age of 79, surrounded by family. But that is not the end of his story. For the man behind the beard left behind a legacy deeper than duck calls, richer than TV ratings. He leaves a testament of redemption, that even the most lost can find purpose, that faith need not be compromised for fame, that the swamp, with all its murk and wildness, can birth a legend. Phil Robertson's voice was never polished or polite, just true. And that is what will echo long after the lights of Duck Dynasty have faded.